Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Minister of State, Climate Change, Secretary Climate Change, Chairman NDMA, Head UNDP, Development Partners, distinguished participants, Assalamu alaikum. It's indeed a great pleasure to be here to celebrate the World Glacier Day on the back of the resolution that was passed by the UN General Assembly back in 2022. Before I come to the subject at hand, a little bit of discussion on the overall macro level with respect to climate change. I've been very clear in almost every discussion that climate change is one of the two existential issues for Pakistan, the other one being population and the growth of population. Now, whether it's the reference that was made of the 2022 catastrophic flooding in Pakistan or the ever-increasing pollution every single winter in Lahore, these are wake-up calls, and these are calls for action on an urgent basis. And that's why, at least at a macro level, we do have a framework in terms of the what part of it. The why is clearly known, as I just mentioned on some of the events that we have just seen in Pakistan. Now, the real challenge for all of us is the how and the who part of it. Now, again, at the macro level, we have the NDCs, we have the National Adaptation Plan, and in Baku, we rolled out the National Climate Finance Strategy. So a lot of these building blocks are in place, and the head UNDP just referred to the gap, and a yawning gap in terms of climate finance when it comes to Pakistan. And I do think we are moving in the right direction. We still have a long way to go when it comes to sort of fulfill the financing gap. The effort that has been made, and we're very grateful to the World Bank Group for the country partnership framework, which is a 10-year framework in which 2 out of the 6 focal points deal with climate change, decarbonization and the overall climate change discussion, and the overall funding that we are going to receive under the country partnership framework over the next 10 years. Also, over the last 2 to 3 weeks, thanks to again the great effort and work done by the Ministry of Climate Change, we have had very constructive discussions with the IMF team with respect to the resiliency fund that we requested last year, and we have made very meaningful progress around that, and inshallah, we will hear from them pretty soon on that front as well. And this is on top of obviously the international capital markets, etc. This afternoon, I'm going to be at the launch ceremony of a green sukuk. So a lot of things are happening in that space. But what I said in the climate finance conference a few weeks back as well, while financing is very critical, the real discussion and the real issue for us is capacity and capacity building at our end. It's therefore, when we look back to the flood discussion in 22, we had pledges of a little over $10 billion. What did we ultimately receive? 1/3 of that. And the reason for that is, as a country, we could not come up with investable, bankable projects. And that is what we need to work on. And that's where the technical assistance is as important as the financing that we require as a country. Now, coming to the Glacier discussion, Secretary Planning and Head UNDP, and of course the video that we just saw, put the what and the why part in context as well. And it is indeed alarming that 10,000 of our glaciers are receding at a rapid pace because in turn of the rising global temperatures. Flooding in the Indus River is a consequence of that, and this disturbed water cycle, in turn, is already impacting our crop yields, the food production, and indeed the livelihood of millions of people who go into distressed situation. During this crisis, when we talked about the flooding in 22, BLOF events struck, and we in turn now have, from what I understand, a little over 3,000 glacial lakes, 33 of which are highly volatile, and putting at least a little over 7 billion people in great danger. These are large and these are alarming statistics. And therefore, I do think all the work that has been done, the preparatory work that has been done in terms of putting a Pakistan Glacier Protection and Resiliency Strategy Framework, which the Secretary Climate Change just explained, and which is now going for public review and input, is a very, very timely action. In that context, the work and this framework providing guidance around the monitoring systems, early warning mechanisms for BLOFs, promoting community-based adaptation practices, and integrating glacier conservation into the overall national climate policies are the right things to do under this framework. Now, in that context, I would want to acknowledge the inputs that have all the research center. Sir, the book that you just gave me, I will go through it with interest. Obviously, a lot of time and effort has been put in to put that together. International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, International Union for Conservation of Nature, and of course, all the great work, help, support, assistance that we are receiving from UNDP. The only thing, just looking at your presentation, Secretary Saba, and you know how our Prime Minister feels about timelines and deadlines, the timeline that you have presented between 25 to 2050, in my humble opinion, I don't think we have that kind of time available. My request would be to see if we can expedite it, and if we can somehow shorten these time frames, what can be brought from long term to medium term into short term. And of course, there are interdependencies, right, with all our cabinet colleagues. But I just want to assure you that from finance and revenue, you will get all the support that this initiative deserves and needs, because that is going to be critical. As I said, whatever we are doing right now in terms of the immediate economic turnaround, in terms of structural reforms, etc., I do think are the right things to do, and inshallah, our economy will be in a very good place. And already on the macro side, we have achieved stability, and as we go towards sustained growth. But ultimately, if we do not manage this existential threat, the sustainability of the economic growth that we are looking for will not come through. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all the very best for the rest of the conference. I know a panel is coming up. It's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invitation. Thank you.